I want to talk to you right now without sharing memes, without anything else, someone else's opinion, someone else's post. I don't know how we got to, as a society, where we're defending someone like Lindsay Clancy. And again, I'm going to be 52 this year, so I've seen lots of things like the lady who drowned her kids and Casey Anthony and all that, and how they were just summarily by society all immediately reviled for doing that to their kids. Men who go out and kill their families, no one rallies around them because they're men or mental illness or anything like that. And even Carmelo Anthony, right? You saw this even in the debates over Kyle, over the shootings in the Kyle Rittenhouse, and there's this trend now to completely ignore all the facts and base everything purely on emotion. And it's really gotten absurd with Lindsay Clancy because the facts aren't even in dispute. People are watching the trial proceedings and now making these weird assumptions and trying to reframe the case as maybe the husband did it, when the physical facts of the case aren't in dispute at all. She definitely did it. She admits to have done it. The defense is not trying to say she didn't do it. No one involved in the case at all is saying she didn't do it. They all admit she did. In the entire trial, right now, the proceedings are to see if she can plead insanity to avoid a guilty verdict. Okay? So I really don't know why we've got ladies in pink shirts showing up outside the courthouse and crying that no one was there for her, when we have placed so much more of an emphasis in society in the last 2 decades, especially on mental health issues and mental health outreach and the Me Too movement, Believe All Women, and all these things we're doing to make sure we're reaching out to people, even men. We're trying harder now to reach out to men for mental illness, which I definitely appreciate, because men don't get, in my opinion, based on what I have personally experienced, men don't get enough grace from society and help from government facilities and organizations when they are the victims of abuse, or, have other problems not caused by themselves, where they may be the victim in a marriage or in a family, right? So how in the world are we at this place where we're coming up with these wild ideas about how maybe the husband did it and maybe she didn't do it at all, when none of that is in dispute? And I don't know how people are watching these hearings, these proceedings, and coming up with this idea that maybe she didn't do it. Her doing it is not in dispute at all. And we really need to dial this back, because one of the big reasons Me Too has bombed out is because of the number of women who have been discovered to have been completely lying, women abusing the grace that was given. And men have been through this. They've seen, how courts and whatnot, the men get the short end of the stick so often when women come up with these things. That's why there's this movement now where people are saying, hey, should women have to serve prison time for false accusations? So let's dial it back, and let's not get tribal over men versus women, especially in this case. This is not a case about feminism, and I don't know how it's turned into that, where we're saying that because of, her postpartum or whatever, maybe Patrick did it, or however this is coming about. They're trying to say she had postpartum psychosis and therefore is not guilty by reason of insanity. No one is arguing whether she did it or not, and I don't know how we're getting there. So everybody needs to take a step back and think about this logically, which is something I know that society has been going against for 30 years, the idea of thinking logically about things and maybe not getting into the emotional deep end of how you feel about certain other aspects of a situation, whether it's about gender, whether it's about race. Everybody needs to calm down and take a step back, because this is not a reason to silo yourself. This case is not a reason to stop talking to people. This case is not a reason to get super argumentative and up in your feelings and all that. If you want to talk about it, let's talk about whether she may have had postpartum psychosis and may be not guilty for that reason. Let's not go into the mental trap of trying to reframe it as somehow she didn't do it at all. Let's stop that, because I can tell you right now, and you know, some women don't want to hear this. Some women acknowledge it completely. There's this trend in society of failure to hold yourself accountable, right? Okay, and we can't reinforce this notion, especially in this case where 3 children are dead. 3 children are dead. Okay? 3 children were strangled. Okay? Children strangled to death. Okay? This is not the case. This is not the one. All right? Maybe in a case where the father is a suspect, maybe a case where we don't really know who did it, you know, John Benet Ramsey or something like that. Sure, there's room to be speculative and argue and, you know, to get all, you know, tribal and set in your opinion and telling everyone they're stupid for disagreeing and, you know, arguing about conspiracy theories this and, you know, you need to stop watching Fox News and all the kind of silly insults and arguments that are coming about because of this. There's no point in it. There really isn't. Everybody calm down. She did it, okay? Let's focus on whether or not she is not guilty by reason of insanity and not trying to say someone else did it to vacate her responsibility in murdering her 3 children, okay? Let's not do that. Let's stop right there. Let's not continue down this path of trying to keep people from being responsible for their actions, because it somehow, you know, complicates, you know, feminine mental health problems or whatever. It doesn't. It doesn't at all. It doesn't make women more susceptible to being convicted of things. It doesn't. There's literally no reason to have an argument about whether or not she killed her kids or if someone else did. The entire proceeding, and please remember, what you're watching and what you're drawing conclusions from and everything, this is not about whether she did it. It's whether or not she's guilty or not guilty by reason of insanity. Okay? So let's dial it down. Let's dial it down. Let's walk it back a little bit. This isn't a feminism issue. This isn't a man versus woman issue. This is no reason to get so heated with people. Okay? Dial it back a little bit. Bob out.